The young men, therefore, had reason to consider themselves fortunate in having the opportunity of hearing one of the best works by the composer of Lucia di Lammermoor, supported by three of the most renowned vocalists of Italy. Albert had never been able to endure the Italian theaters, with their orchestras from which it is impossible to see, and the absence of balconies or open boxes. All these defects pressed hard on a man who had had his stall at the Bouffe, and had shared a lower box at the opera. Still, in spite of this, Albert displayed his most dazzling and effective costumes each time he visited the theaters. But, alas, his elegant toilet was wholly thrown away, and one of the most worthy representatives of Parisian fashion had to carry with him the mortifying reflection that he had nearly overrun Italy without meeting with a single adventure. Sometimes Albert would affect to make a joke of his want of success, but internally he was deeply wounded, and his self-love immensely piqued. To think that Albert de Morcerf, the most admired and most sought after of any young person of his day, should thus be passed over, and merely have his labor for his pains. And the thing was so much the more annoying, as, according to the characteristic of modesty of a Frenchman, Albert had quitted Paris with the full conviction that he had only to show himself in Italy to carry all before him, and that upon his return he should astonish the Parisian world with the recital of his numerous love affairs. Alas, poor Albert! None of those interesting adventures fell in his way. The lovely Genoese, Florentines, and Neapolitans were all faithful, if not to their husbands, at least to their lovers, and thought not of changing even for the splendid appearance of Albert de Morcerf. And all he gained was the painful conviction that the ladies of Italy have this advantage over those of France, that they are faithful even in their infidelity. Yet he could not restrain a hope that in Italy, as elsewhere, there might be an exception to the general rule. I feel a little bit vindicated here. Validated, maybe. Vindicated would imply that people were attacking my opinion, and I don't feel that way at all. Validated in that my initial read on Franz and Albert were that they are on a sort of quest for adventure, aristocratic boys out for aristocratic adventures, that they can come home and hang on their mantle. They can speak ad nauseum to people in parlor rooms across Paris. And this is evidence of that. So, hooray for me. I get a gold star. I will also say it's a little satisfying in finding Albert to be a little off-putting initially, to see that, hey, you know what? Despite your privileges in life, not everything falls your way. You can't buy absolutely anything just because of who you are, your station in life. You still got to work for things. And a little bit of luck is part of the bargain. Is Albert really in a position to learn any of this, though? Or is he just going to be an aggrieved old man about it? Oh boy. Didn't mention this yesterday, and I think it's just today is a continuation of this idea, so I can bring it up here. And I'll preface this by saying, I'm a man in my 40s who picked up and moved states. I basically moved my entire life without knowing very many people in the destination that I ended up. And as a middle-aged man, it is hard to make friends. You really have to put some effort into it and set aside your prejudices. You have to set aside the ways that you're set in. I talked so much the other day. I spent so much of your time talking about how precious I find time, and that I really find it frustrating when I feel mine is being wasted. And now, that was not a way I wanted to phrase this. I never feel like an interaction with another human being is time wasted. But I'm more discerning as an adult about who I'm spending significant amount of time with. And it's hard to find people with common interests, common lifestyles, particularly. At my age, people are married with kids. Kids are at a specific age, which aren't yet out of the house. They still require quite a bit of attention and time and dedication, and parents are exhausted, or people are working too much. Like, there's so many things that you go down the line that stand in the way of making friends. All of this to say, this is such a long preface to say that I find appealing a little bit this idea that you can just write letters of introduction and send it out to a specific crowd and see if you get any invitations back to say, hey, you know what? Why don't you join us at our ball or at our, what was the word they used yesterday? Our root. I know that there are apps out there for finding adult friends, and I do not mean at all. I do not advertise. I'm not sponsored by Adult Friend Finder. That's not what I mean. There are options. I think, God, it's been forever since I've been on dating apps, but didn't Bumble have a friend finder? Like, I'm not looking for dating. I am looking for people with common interests in my area. I know that there's meetup sites and places you can go to find people with common interests. But it would be nice if there was just a system for, like, I'm going to take the time to write a letter of introduction of who the heck I am, what I'm interested in, what I can contribute. Here's my credentials, and I'm interested in having a conversation with you or your crowd because we both like tabletop board games, or we both like long 19th century French tomes written by romantic authors and reading one page of those a day. Where can I just write up a letter and try to get myself invited to a conversation with someone? That's what I want to know. And I've sidestepped the generalization here that Dumas and Albert both are making of Italian women, that even though it's a pithy turn of phrase, that they are faithful even in their infidelity. Okay, yeah, I'm sure that's not true of everyone, but that sure seems like something he's going to go home and spread the word about. Alrighty, I'm going to end it there for today. I've got a cat sitting in my lap, and it's making my arm fall asleep, so we're going to go, I think, get some food. Join me here tomorrow as we do a little bit more of Chapter 34. Until then, okay, goodbye. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.